Hey, pretty little lifters. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Ashley Borden. Ashley is an LA-based trainer. We met here at a local gym in LA, and I have been following her training advice and different things that she posts on social media. One thing I love about her is that she has been in the fitness industry for like 30 plus years. So she has been able to see the transition of fitness and has experience as a trainer on that side of the spectrum of like seeing what it's like to be a trainer in this industry that's been changing and shifting, and then also working with her clients and, being able to teach them new things and how we're not stuck in the 80s or 90s thinking anymore. She's also very transparent about things online, which I love. And so we're going to get into a lot of these topics in today's conversation. Enjoy this convo with Ashley Borden. Welcome to the podcast. I am here with Ashley Borden. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi.
So happy to have you here. So let's get into it. Give our listeners a little background on who you are and what you are currently up to.
Well, my name, as you said, Ashley Borden. I have been a personal trainer and in the fitness and lifestyle arena for about 30 years. Which is, when I say that, I'm like, wow, it makes me sound like a dinosaur, but I'm not. And I've actually known Tiffany for years. I've known you from the gyms and all that. So I have been a coach and a trainer and a business coach to other trainers for decades. I would say that my motto with my business is it's never too late, and you just need the right person to show you how. I think that is one of the biggest things with fitness, with business, with anything, is that when you find the right person and you connect with them, you can make great changes within your life and everyone else around you. And I love training. I love working with people. I love that everything has moved to online because we can do this. We can affect other people. And it's just such a gift. And I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for inviting me.
No, I love that. So we have kind of known each other through the gym space here in LA. It's funny because I know LA seems big, but like once you're in the fitness community, you kind of like start to know people in the industry. And one thing that I like love following you on social media, and one thing that I think is interesting about you is that you have been in this industry for like you said, like for a while. So you've got to see these waves and transitions of fitness. Like I remember when I think of like growing up, fitness in like the 90s and 2000s, like the things that I kind of saw were like women being small and petite and like tiny little dumbbells. And it was really cool. Like you did this throwback post where you were showing like, I think it was like a flyer, like a promo flyer you created for yourself.
Yes.
And you were talking about getting your mind and body strong. And this was in the 90s. I was like, you were ahead of the game. So I would love to hear kind of what you've seen changes in the fitness industry, and then where that kind of came from for you to start incorporating mind and body and strength back then.
Of course. So I lived in Brentwood during that time. And this was during the O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Simpson murder. When I made that flyer, actually the one that you were talking about, and I was in like a bikini and I was at the beach, and I used to only train women then because I only felt comfortable around women. And this is actually something that I would say to anybody who's starting or anybody who's struggling with training, is that you should just train the demographic that you're comfortable training. There is no shortage of people in the world. So if you're a demographic that you feel comfortable in is your niche, and let's say you were like you, Tiffany, you're like, I love high school women, girls who are on the brink of learning and they want to become more confident, and this strength stuff will help set them off into the right path with their life. It's like, when you know who your people are, that's who you should focus on. You don't have to train everybody. When I first started training, I didn't train everybody because I didn't know what I was doing. And I also, truthfully at the time, didn't think that a male would train with me for the right reason when I was in my 20s. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And just so strangely enough that during that time of OJ Simpson, my boyfriend at the time, their families were God families. So I was at the funeral. I was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
it was crazy. So my whole thing about being empowered with mind and body had to do with that act, to be honest. And I've always very much been involved in self-defense and empowerment and stuff. And I think that goes back just to when I was younger, just being, assaulted and all. I mean, I don't know who hasn't been, right? I mean, as a female and all that stuff. So training to me is about connecting to your body, becoming stronger, but then also being able to work with people that you feel like you can give your message to and that they'll take it. And then as you get better, you can open up your world to more people if you want. If you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rules. That's what's great about running your own business. You can do whatever you want.
No, and I love that you mentioned that about like being around the demographic you feel comfortable to, because like as a trainer, like I went to an all girls school. Like I'm a girls girl, and so like I have always felt so comfortable around training women. That was usually the demographic. Obviously I've trained men too, but that was just like, there's just something so special about it. But then also like on the flip side, like if you're a person who's working out, like finding spaces where like a friend of mine opened like an all women's gym, and I'm like, yes, like go do that. Like,
wherever
I love
you're
that.
comfortable, there's no judgment. I mean, honestly, it's like, and here's the other thing about running your own business. You do whatever you want. Like what makes you comfortable? If something in your nervous system, and here's how you know, if people are like, well, I don't know. How do I know if this is right or wrong? I'm like, your central nervous system in your stomach will tell you if this is the right or wrong situation, and when your nervous system feels nice and calm and you work with these people that you don't feel spun out by, that's how you know that you're in the right situation. I think for years, just being in a gym, I mean, the good thing about when you start in a gym is that you really learn how to manage all different types of personalities and people. If you're not a people person, get out of being a trainer. Get out now. Go find another job, because it's not about you working out. It's about people. It's about other people. So that I feel like being in other gyms really helped prepare me of how to manage situations and to do that. But I'm a huge boundary person. So I don't have any problem setting boundaries. I have no problem saying how I feel. And that really bothers some people. And if it bothers, if that happens, here's the thing I want to tell people also. If you set boundaries and you have healthy boundaries and it bothers somebody, that is a red flag. That is a very red flag. Unhealthy people are bothered by boundaries. Healthy people are actually accepting of them and saying, okay, great. Thank you for pointing that out to me. You know what I mean? So that goes in business too. You know what I mean? If you need to pay attention to the flags.
And so circling back to what you were saying about, you were kind of like in that realm of like the OJ case was going on, like, women being attacked, you wanting women to be strong. So did you in that time, like 90s, 2000s, like experience any backlash when you were trying to promote like women being strong and strength training? Like did you experience any of that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was working at Gold's Gym at the time in Hollywood, which makes no sense because I was living in Brentwood. Because I was living in Brentwood.
That's a drive.
But this is Ashley, like not understanding LA. You know what I mean? I'm such a schlep. And I would go there. The backlash. Now this is in the 90s at Gold's, and what I got was I don't even remember any straight women that were trainers on the floor at the time, and I was actually really good friends with the other, I think there were like 3 other women that happened to be gay that were on the floor with me that I was friends with that we were training. And the type of, in the 90s, the type of shit I got was not necessarily that I was teaching strength training, but that I was a trainer and that I was a woman and that I wouldn't play the game with other male trainers of whatever. So I was called, and by the way, I mean, I love how they acted like this is like an insult. They were, call me a lesbian, say, you're gay, which by the way, I think it's so funny when people think that that's supposed to be an insult. I'm like,
yeah, okay. You're like, no.
Right. I'm like, I'm not, but also all my friends here, but it was because I was serious about my work. And I had boundaries. Again, it was the same thing. Even back then in my 20s. So the backlash, yeah, I mean, the backlash I got was not even just because I was a female trainer. I mean, I could tell you a million stories of horrible stuff. I was called at Gold's, I was called by other gay men, actually, that I worked with, every name under the sun. I was harassed. I was told to leave. You know what I mean? I'm sure other women back then who were working in the 90s, there was a lot of sexual inappropriateness happening at the gym. And, it's so different now, you know what I mean? Not to me, but that I would witness. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to have a thick skin, I guess, in that way. And I've been in many different gyms, and trained there.
Yeah.
The thing that I get a lot is that I've had this my whole life, though. Even when I worked at Club Med, when I was like 18. And when I worked at Club Med at 18, I was told, they brought me into the office and they were like, the chef de village, the chief of the village, brought me into the office and said to me, Ashley, in French, or very thick French. He was French accent. He was like, I just need to let you know that the members don't like your posture, the way you walk around the club.
Oh.
They feel that your posture is too upright and people can't approach you.
Interesting.
I was like 18 or 17 at the time. Yeah.
You're like, I'm sorry, I have this nice tall posture.
But I've been told this about my posture before. And I was like, and at the time I was like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's just, I just feel that sometimes, you can't help I don't feel people should dim their light because other people feel intimidated if you happen to have a little bit more light, or you are whatever, or you have good posture, or whatever, just because it triggers somebody else and it's a positive thing, like, so weird. But I've had that comment many times in many gyms. And
no, I think it's so interesting because obviously I just turned 40, and then I started doing training and stuff when I was in my mid 20s. And so that was like in the mid 2000s, or like it was around like 2010 ish, right? When I started doing this. And so like by then there was a big shift, but like for me, I never really thought about like how fitness trainers that were actively trainers in the 90s and 2000s, like early 2000s, kind of had to pave the way for the rest of us, because I feel like, I'm not saying that female trainers today don't have their own, issues still happening, because I definitely think they do. But I think if it's improved, like it's so different.
I would say that there were trainers that I actually don't know. There's a handful, like Jeanette Jenkins. Jeanette and I have been around the same thing for years, there's like a handful of female trainers that I know, that I'm friends with, that have been around the business for a long time. There's more men that I've known for a long time. But, I feel, and now with Instagram, you can see, back when, before social media, you were just like, is it me and the 3 people that were in the gym?
You're like in a vacuum.
Yeah, totally.
You're like, am I the only one?
You're in a vacuum. But now obviously it's different. I feel, I don't know. I feel like when you're working on the floor, there's other people around. It's like, there's always going to be stuff. I could tell you so many stories of like me at the gym, and I was like at the front desk and getting my stuff. And this guy who I've worked with there for a long time, he was a man. I want to say he's like in his 50s. And I was like getting a towel, and he turned and looked at me. He goes, you know what, Ashley, I don't like you. No, he didn't say my name. He said, I don't like you.
Oh.
And I was like, oh. And he's like, I want you to get away from me, because we were all crowded at the time. And I was like, first of all, I don't even know your name. Like, I had worked with him for a long time. Who are you? I didn't know his name. And he was like, I don't like you. And then someone else behind him was like, dude, you need to like slow your roll a little bit or whatever. But again, this is what's so sad, is that I was just like, I said, I must be doing something, because if I'm affecting you like this, and I've never even had a conversation with you, I don't even know your name. His name was Jesse. I found out at the time. But what it is that confident women can trigger insecure. I'm sorry. I mean, it can really trigger insecure people, but really trigger insecure men. So I have had a lot, and I know I'm not a man basher at all. I mean, I have so many friends. It's just not at all, but it's with anybody, right? I mean, a confident person can really trigger anybody who feels insecure but really more on the male side. I mean, I've had this in gyms. It's the gyms that I've been in, gay or straight. I was at a small gym and he was a gay owner and he was my friend. And he also had a conversation with me. He was like, I need to talk to you about just the way you walk around here. And I was like,
interesting.
What do you mean the way? He's like, just the way you walk around here like you own the place.
You're like, I am just existing. This is me.
It's so fascinating. And I'm like, well, I mean, you might call that confidence. I don't know. Would you like me to, you know what I mean? I mean, it's so interesting. You know what I mean? How it affects people. So again, like, don't dim your light, just shift your direction.
100%.
You might not be around the right people,
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've talked about this on another podcast episode with a PE teacher she's based out of London, I believe. And I was talking about how it's been for me, switching from I was an elementary school teacher and then I became single subject PE teacher. And this was a time where in elementary school, it's mostly female teachers. It's mostly female teachers I'm interacting with. And I usually, no drama, no issues.
Right.
But when I became a PE teacher, I was, around more men. And this was my first time experiencing that, kind of like what you were talking about. It's like them seeing a confident woman who was excited to start this program. And I wasn't even they weren't even in my department. They were part of other schools, but seeing them feel threatened or challenged. And I was just like, this is interesting. This is new to me. I've never experienced this because I was usually with women. And obviously I know how to work with men, but I've become more aware of how challenging it can be as a woman. And it's like you said,
and especially
it's just
teaching weights. You know what I mean? I love that you have I wish when I was in high school that we were working with barbells.
Me too.
I love that you're doing that with these girls and that they're introducing that. I wish more than anything. I mean, we had it, but it was for the football team or whatever at the time. You know what I mean? I was a dancer. I wasn't introduced to heavy strength training until my 30s.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an ex-boyfriend that actually more introduced me to the heavier strength training of stuff. I don't even know what I was doing before that, to be honest. I don't know what I was doing. I mean, I was training myself for years and I was a dancer, but, I feel like the great thing about being a trainer and about being an educator is that you can always get better and you can always learn and, help other people that way. But it's so true what you're saying. I mean, and whenever you do anything that's a little bit different, right, and you're coming into, and you're a pretty female that's coming in and teaching weights that, why are you teaching weight? It's 2023, you guys. I mean, come on, I love that. I wish we had that more in high schools.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I am happy to see the shift, at least even from when I started though in the fitness industry. I like that we are moving away from being smaller and taking up less space to lifting weights, fueling our bodies, not trying to be oh my God, everything's about being skinny. I just like seeing this healthy shift and it's been good. I hope it continues.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree because it's kind of like with any of my training with my clients or groups that I run, right? The focus is on being as strong as you possibly can. Because if you just focus on being strong and having physical goals, like I want to be able to do 10 push-ups full out. I want to be able to do 5 pull-ups first. I want to be able to do 1 pull-up unassisted without a band. When you have those goals in your fitness, everything changes. You become stronger mentally also, but also your body will change without you focusing on your body changing. I mean, I know you know this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the best part. It's the best part because you don't have to think about it.
Exactly. So if you just focus on every workout being oh, okay, I got to get my form better. Oh my God, Tiffany and I are going to go over our back squats. I want to really be able to get, 85 in my back squat. Like when those are your focus points of lifting and working out, everything changes. I want to scream this to all women, like your hormones are released out into the world. They're like having the best time. Your physique, your physique changes. Your core becomes like, what? Like, it's not it's like when I was in my 20s, the incessant crunches and like, I'm like,
oh my gosh,
6 pack.
100 crunches. Let's go.
And then when I started with the barbell stuff, I was like, what the hell is happening to my body? It was crazy.
Yes.
So that is the gift of strength training and of focusing on just being a more capable human and not on, I want to lose. I just started with a new client or I was interviewing her and we were talking and I was like, so tell me what your goals are. She's like, well, I just want to have like more toned arms. And I said, okay. And I'm looking at her whole body and I'm like, okay, well, what about the rest of your body? She's like, no, I just really want to work on my arms. And I'm like, well, it doesn't work like that. I said, the way that you get the rest of your body is by especially training your legs. I mean, you need to be able to have that hormone release and that's what's going to do it. And I said, this is part of the problem of why your body hasn't been changing is because you're still approaching fitness like it's 1983.
Yes.
You know 100%. What I mean? And especially women more my age who are in their 50s, some of are very stuck in this 80s mentality of like doing more like what are those bar classes and doing 50 bar classes a week and eating 300 calories. Yeah. And then they wonder why their adrenals are shot. They wonder why they're skinny fat. They wonder why they're so miserable and angry, and so it's just taking that trust. So I work with a lot of women who've been there and then have come to the other side. Like, I'm like, let me tell you, look at me. I'm not some like enormous, huge monster power lifter. You know what I mean? I mean, you lift heavy.
That's what they think we're going to turn into. They think we're going to turn into the Hulk. And it's like, it's really hard to do that.
And let me tell you something. So many of these power lifters are on drugs. I mean, I hate to also tell people, a lot of the fitness people you see are on drugs. Okay. They're taking a lot of drugs. And so even powerlifters who say that they're natural are not, and they're taking shooting testosterone and they're doing this women. So don't worry. You're not going to get huge and gigantic. And if you become too much of a monster and you're too big, call me. Let me know. Like I tell my clients, I'm like, you know what? When you're too ripped and strong and you feel like you're too muscular and it's gross, give me a call. Call me and then I'll help take it down from there. But I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I don't think you get too many phone calls like that.
No, I haven't ever received anyone who's like, you know what, Ashley, this 6-pack is just, I want to go back to, So, but generally, and you could tell me if you agree, I feel that a lot of times when people are like, I don't want to lift heavy because I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, you mean you don't want to lift heavy because you don't want to put in the exertion? Yeah. Like, let's be honest.
And I also think it goes back to that point that you just made is like the miseducation. We are stuck mentally in a different decade.
Yeah.
Like when I hear those thoughts to me, I'm like, oh, you're not up to date on information in this fitness and health world. Because if you were, you would be able to unpack and unlearn all the stuff, the misinformation we learned. And so to me, it's like, oh, you don't keep up with this, or nobody ever taught you, or maybe you're following the wrong people who are also stuck in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, Yes. And so that's like part of the work that I do with my students. I was like, we are not because a lot of their parents probably are stuck in that mindset too. So it's like, let me teach you, you can teach your parents, and like, let's kind of end this generational cycle of like things that we should not be doing anymore. It's just like breaking that cycle of like misinformation,
Right. And I think this fallacy of, look, you have to lift heavy because, first of all, you do pick up heavy things in your life. I mean, I have news for everybody. You are going to be picking up more than 5 pounds in your life.
100%.
Even picking up a pencil from the floor the wrong way could throw your back out.
Oh, yes.
You know,
Yes. Sneezing, like sneezing. Like,
sneezing. If you don't know how to brace your core when you lift, is different
yes.
than vacuuming your core when you're doing yoga, is different from Pilates, bracing of your core. It is very different. So I tell people, look, if you love, let's say somebody's like, I love Zumba and I love Pilates. It makes me feel so happy. I'd be like, okay, here's what we need to do. Your main course of your training has to be strength. You need to have 3 days a week minimal. I mean, 3 days a week is a maintenance. 4 to 5 days a
Yes.
week is changing your physique. Okay. So when people are
Yes.
like, I'm training 2 days a week and nothing's happening, I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, you need some more, you
Yeah.
need a couple more days in there to get that effect. But at the same time, like, okay, do the other stuff that you love. I'm not saying don't do Zumba, don't do Pilates. I'm saying do that around the strength training. So if you're like,
Yes.
okay, I got 3 or 4 days in a strength training and I want to take a class with my girlfriend, we're going to go do it. I mean, great, go do that for movement or fun. But you need to build, I mean, you know this, but we need to build muscle because it's all going away. I mean,
Yes.
what happens when we get
100%.
older? We become incontinent. You can't breathe because your chest is so far forward and you're hunched forward, right? You have a walker. You lose strength in your legs. I don't know if you've watched The Blue Zone on Netflix. Have you watched this yet?
Oh, I started to. I started it.
Okay.
Yes.
The number one thing I want to take away from this that I've watched is that they said about any people living anywhere about their longevity that they found was the strength in their legs.
Yes.
That they found
yes.
that,
Like
I think it was
strength.
Japan, I don't remember where they were, Okinawa and Japan, how they were saying that they didn't even have any furniture in their house and they're squatting all the time. And they have this incredible leg strength. And I don't know where it was, somewhere else where they were walking up, everything was up these huge hills, right? So
Yeah.
even the senior citizens have this incredible strength in their legs, and leg strength is what goes for us first, right? That's why people fall, they lose their proprioception.
Balance, like all of that.
All of that. So when you train for for life stuff and doing that and, you know, using your legs, you got to use your legs, you know what I mean? And you need to
Totally.
you need to train your legs, you know?
So this summer I spent like 2 weeks in Capri, Italy,
Oh.
because that's where my father-in-law is from.
Oh,
And so all
great.
his family is over there. And I can't tell you, like, it was so amazing to watch these 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds climb these stairs and hills multiple times a day, where I
See?
was like, people in the US could not do this.
Is this amazing?
There's like this many people that could. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was amazing. And they were just so sharp and just like
Yes.
looked livelier and a little bit stronger and not as frail.
Yes.
And it was just so interesting. It was really interesting.
I really feel, and they were saying in the Blue Zone, right, that it's not even that these people are like training, you know, it's just the way they live their life, right?
Yes,
the way they
they're
live
just
their
not
life.
as sedentary.
And I feel like that here when I was watching it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm, you know, one of the things they were saying in the Blue Zones, right, is that like living in where these people are living into their hundreds in these like quality lives, and also the lack of stress, you know, and that's something I just want to, you know, kind of just reiterate is that you can be doing all these things, right? Training, all this stuff. You're like, but if you live in if you are just stressed out all the time, that overrides anything else that's going on with you, you know? So every decision that I make, whether it's a client, whether it's a podcast, it has to be in alignment with me not feeling stressed out, with me not having some negative connotation to it. And that's what keeps me happy and sane, you know? And I think I think nowadays people feel more obligation to say yes to everything because there's so many things, right? Especially with social media, there's so many things, but you have to keep your peace. That to me is one of the most important things. Like you need to know what your peace level is and what you won't compromise for that. You know?
Totally.
And that's important that you are not a ping pong, that you're just going from thing to thing, that you have goals and you have your, you know what your deal breakers are with business and personally, you know, and that really helps you to just make the right decisions of saying yes or no to people and things and where you train, what gym you're at. Should you be at home? Should you be online? Where, like you said, women's only gym. If you feel better going there, then go to a women's only gym. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Who cares?
Totally.
Do what makes you feel safe.
Yeah, no, I love that. So you are in your early 50s, and
52.
I'm curious about 52 and fabulous.
Yeah.
I love it. And I just turned 40, and I was
Can't
kind
even
of
believe it.
going through this. I know, I was like, we're so healthy and strong. I love this.
You
Like,
look so, I honestly thought you were in your early 30s, and I'm not joking.
I'll take it. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah.
But one of the things that I was kind of noticing was feeling like a shift of like wanting my training to change a little bit, or like experimenting to see like what really felt good. What kind of shift did you see from like your 40s to your 50s with your training? Did it stay the same in terms of like, because let's be real, like even though we feel like young, we know our bodies are changing and we're different and we feel different. So have you experienced any shifts in training that have helped you feel good at 52?
Well, I started, so I've always been into martial arts, different types. I mean, boxing, I used to teach boxing years ago. And loved it. And I love MMA, and I've loved MMA. I've, trained some MMA athletes. I love it. And so in my 40s, when I turned 40, I was like, gosh, I want to learn jujitsu so badly. And I had taken it once before at this place that wasn't good. And so I asked somebody, I was like, do you know a jujitsu instructor that is like really good, that's not going to make me feel uncomfortable, that's good with like women and new? I need someone that's good with new. He's like, I have a perfect person. His name's Duda Gerha. And I was like, okay, great. So I met this guy, started training with him. He's excellent. And I started training like 5 days a week, and I was like obsessed with it. 14 years later, we're a couple. But
I love it.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
but I love jujitsu changed my life. It changed my training, changed my life, because it gave me this confidence. Because jujitsu isn't about your size; it's about leverage, and it's about, you're a small person, right? So when you're smaller, you feel like, you're not going to be able to punch someone in the face. I mean, if you're being attacked, I'm sorry, everybody, you're not going to. A small little fist hitting a guy in the face probably isn't going to do much, right? But being able to big joint manipulation, understand your space, and the confidence that you have of learning jujitsu is life-changing. And that, I think, expanded into my training as well with that. What changed? The only thing, I would say the only thing, Tiffany, that I'm not doing that I did before was snatching with a barbell. I don't snatch. So I had a really bad L4, L5 injury from doing.
I'm currently dealing with an L4, L5 injury.
From doing CrossFit and squatting the wrong way for so long, right? That I had a chronic L4, L5 injury, and then it was almost completely debilitating. And then I hired a coach, and she and I went over my form. And I will tell you what changed my entire life was, she's like, you need to put your weight in the middle of your foot, like a talon, right? Like a talon, not shift your weight into your heel when you're squatting. So, I used to like sit back, Instagram ass into my back, into my heels, right? And instead now I'm pushing my tailbone down when I'm squatting, my weight's in my midfoot, and then understanding how to brace right above your belly button and not kegling. So so it changed the distribution of the weight, and the bar also is lower on my back now. What changed was also understanding that squat position, and this is something that I think is so important it is not universal.
Correct.
It is not universal.
Yes. And we have to, I had to unlearn that, because that's what we were taught. You were probably taught that as a coach as well. It's like, this is what you do. And then you sit back like you're sitting in a chair. And I was like, well, that might not work for everyone. And but weight distribution, there is so much I've had to unlearn 100%. About that.
Like if you have long femurs, long femur, long torso, right? You're going to be leaner. You need to take your feet wider. And by the way, you can turn your feet out a little bit if that's what your body needs. I mean, it just changed the way I squatted with my squat position, and that took me out of pain. So I've been, knock on wood, no longer have back pain anymore.
Amazing.
No longer have back pain anymore. And my training is to have the strongest core to keep my back strong. It's not even like what it looks like anymore. It's like about me being upright and staying strong. You know what I mean? With all that. So I would say, well, oh, and also probably what changed is that I'm not doing I do not do these freaking CrossFit workouts anymore. Like I am not doing these I remember doing workouts at freaking, what do you call it, Lockbox, where the workout would take me so long that I had to go into the next class to finish this 12 days of Christmas workout or whatever the hell we did back then.
Oh,
You know
I
what I
remember
mean?
those ones. Yes.
And again, I'm not, look, if people love CrossFit, do it and their body feels good to it, live your best life. I'm just saying for me, it was destroyed me. You know, I mean, I did learn a lot of good things, but it destroyed my back because I was doing things wrong. And everything was being taught to universally, generally, like put your feet here with everybody. You know what I mean? And I had a wink in my squat and I had tight psoas and I had an injury in my lower and my tailbone. Question to you though, did you ever fall on your tailbone?
Luckily, no.
Oh, okay.
Luckily, no. But I saw some crazy people trying to do toes to bar and then falling straight down.
But I mean, like when you were younger. But I mean, like when you were really young. Did you ever fall on your tailbone?
I was young. Probably. I'm sure I did.
Because I will just tell you. So I used to have this wink, and people who are like, "What's a wink in your tailbone?" It's like when you squat.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And your tailbone kind of tucks under, right? And I always felt tight in my psoas. Always. I was always trying to release my psoas, like impale my psoas, right? Finally, and then I injured myself, right? And then finally I went to see Fabrice Gauthier. He is an incredible, he's like a physical therapist in Los Angeles. And he's amazing. He works on a lot of NBA players and stuff. And I went to him and I love Fabrice. And I said, what is going on with my body? And he was like, he said to me, did you fall on your tailbone? And I said, well, not recently. He's like, no, ever. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I had a rollerblading. I fell on my tailbone like crazy years ago. He's like, well, you have a ligament that goes from your tailbone to your psoas that needs to be palpated and pulled because it is shortened and tight and all screwed up from when you fell on it. And that is what is pulling you into this wink. That is what is hurting your back. Anyway, long story short, I said to him, okay, well, this sounds great, but how are you getting into my tailbone? And who's doing this? And he said, it's his wife also, who was a physical therapist. He said, she's going to do it. Tiffany, I was in so much pain. And they're like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say this on the podcast. He was like, they're like, all right, we are going to put a glove on. We have to put our finger in your ass and we are going to adjust your tailbone and palpate. I was like, excuse me, what are you talking about?
You're like, what did I sign up for?
I said, but I was in so much pain. And I said,
you're like, let's figure this out.
Wait. So I was like biting on a towel, back in the day. Anyway, 4 horrible minutes later, it fixed it. And I stopped having the pain. And then I adjusted my movement. Right. And then I started getting stronger. And then I was out of this chronic ongoing pain. That's why I was asking you about your tailbone. But
wow.
So, who doesn't want a story of somebody putting their finger up your ass? I mean, come on.
It's like, okay. But this kind of goes back to everything's individual and people know different things. And this is interesting. But I like how you recognized that for you, things like CrossFit Metcons, those really intense workouts, we're just not it anymore, And
all the time. I mean,
all the time.
And by the way,
because I used to do it 5-6 days a week, and I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Well, by the way, who can? Do you know what I mean? I mean, here's the thing, it's who can. It's a really hard way to live training that up there all the time for your body. You just need to be able to recover. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a lot what we would do. Mm-hmm. I mean, now I don't live like that. You know what I mean? But the difference is that, I think it's something else you have to realize as you get older, right? You need to say, what is also my cortisol, right? What is making me, are you having these major dips of up and down? And when I lift now, it's interesting. I don't have to lift anywhere near as insane and I still get great results. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you mean because so in my 30s, my goal was to lift the most weight, like as
Mm-hmm.
much as I could. Like I was on the road to like a 200-pound back squat. And like, that
Mm-hmm.
was my goal. Like, I just had these like
Mm-hmm.
milestone numbers. Like I wanted to snatch over 100 pounds. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do this. So it was all like very numbered base. And like, this past year or two, when I started training, because I was recovering from a disc herniation,
Mm.
I was like, no, we're just moving to feel good now. And I still wanted to feel strong, but I wasn't like chasing numbers as much.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
for me personally, it relieved so much like pressure, because I was like, sure, I want to get stronger, but like, I just knew it was a long game. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
it was
right,
like, I want to squat and like progressively get heavier, but I don't need a 200-pound squat. If I get there,
right,
cool.
right.
But if not, like, I'm fine. Like, if my squat stays where it is, but it feels challenging still, like, I will just progressively get there, you know? So, like, for me, that was a big shift of like letting go of like
Numbers.
numbers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big one, because it was always chasing, like you'd see people on Instagram posts like 300-pound back squat, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, should I be doing that? Like, is that
Right,
where I need to be, you know? And I'm like,
right.
I'm a different person. I'm not training as much as them. Like, why am I holding on to this like number that I need to achieve,
Well, I think
you
it's also
know?
because we came from when when you're in a CrossFit gym a lot, just hear it all the time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I really can't. I mean, you really need to be able to move so perfectly in order to do a
Hmm.
lot of this stuff, this volume of these very difficult movements that we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Okay, do you know what I mean by the
Yeah.
difference of somebody who mimics a movement versus that they know what they're doing?
Yes, yes. It's because you could just watch a video and be like, okay, I'm doing it. But it's like, but are
Right,
you? Like, or do
right.
you understand like what else goes into this? So
And I
it's,
feel there's a
I
lot of
feel like,
mimicking. Yeah.
yes, 100%. And one thing I would encourage, like anybody who's listening, if you go, I'm a big proponent of class. Like, I love classes. Like, I am
Mm-hmm.
a class girly. Like, I love going to classes. But if you are in a class that has a lot of people in it and you're not really getting any attention from the coach, because they have a lot to do. Like, let's be real, there's a lot of bodies that they have to supervise and make sure everyone's being safe. But, you know, if there's a movement, you're like, hey, you know, I don't know if my squat is looking that great. Talk to your coach before the class starts and be like, hey, when we're doing our back squats today, can you like take a look at my form and give me cues? And let them know, like, hey, this is a movement I'd really like you to watch me do. And then if not, like, and if you feel like you're not getting attention like that, this is where like people like Ashley and I come in, you know, like working one-on-one with someone to really get those movements on point before you go into that setting and start doing bad patterns that are going to lead to injury
Yeah.
and just bad technique, you know?
You know, it's a good suggestion. I do this with people now because I don't have the capacity to take people on as ongoing clients, is I do like 5 sessions with them. And that's what I tell anybody. I mean, even if it's you and
Yeah.
your clients, right? The best thing to do is hire somebody who is an expert, knows what they're doing, and then do like 3 to 5 sessions and work on specific movement patterns. So like I, with my
Yes.
clients, will be like, all right, we're going to go over lunging, squatting, plank, push, pull. Right. And I want to go over all these movement patterns with them, cue them, make sure everything looks good. Then based on that, I give them a program of mine that I feel is correct for where they are, what their goals are, what
Hmm.
their equipment is, and what they're willing to do, and what they want to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I agree. I think classes, if you're a class person, here's the thing you have to know though. You can ask a teacher to please look at me during, they're just not. I mean, you're not going to get, you are not going to get the attention that you're going to get. It is worth it to hire a trainer for 1 or 2 sessions to be obsessed with your form. You'll get more out of one session, like hiring Tiffany for an hour to go over your squat and your press that will set you up for your whole class taking and everything, than you will
That's
with the
true.
5 seconds of, because I just remember
Yeah.
in class, right? When I used to teach a group barbell class. Oh my God.
It's
I
a lot.
was,
It's a lot.
Tiffany, I
Yeah.
would start class and I'm like, all right, I want everyone to know one thing. It was a women's only class, actually. And I was saying, you guys could all die in this class if you don't listen to how you're managing the barbell correctly. You could paralyze yourself. You could die with the barbell falling on you the wrong way. Okay. So I want because people had their phones out. I was like, I took everybody's
Mm.
phone. I said, put it over there. Everybody had to listen to what was going on. I'm like, when you rack the bar, I need you to hear it hit both at the same time. Like, the things that I couldn't imagine teaching an ongoing class at CrossFit. I would have a heart attack. I'm such a, like I'm sure teaching these kids in class.
And I have kids. Yeah, I have kids. And like, honestly, that's why, like, because you were talking about, and you know what, you're right about the class situation. One, if you are in a class and you're asking for help, one, it depends how many people are in your class.
Right.
Like, if it's like more than 10, like you might, like, I pretty much know what I'm doing at this point, right? But every now and then, like when I do take a CrossFit class, which is big, like I know enough where like I know the coach and I could just be like, hey, watch me do this set and like tell me what you think. And it's like a quick, and I can adjust like super quick on the fly. Whereas like if you're new
and you don't know,
and maybe you've never had anybody teach you, like Ashley's right, you're going to need more than like a 10-second interaction. You know,
you are.
So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
I want to tell you, I went to a Olympic lifting seminar back in the day, right? And it was like 2 days in Illinois in the middle of a cornfield. And I did it like, it was like a CrossFit thing. And then we got like our certificate afterwards. And they're like, hey, you guys can go teach now. I was like, teach? I couldn't believe that they were letting people leave and go teach Olympic lifting when I could, at that time, I was like, I still don't understand where my hands go on the bar. And I had gotten the certificate, right? I never taught snatching and all that. Cleaning the bar, yes. I feel like you do need to understand how to clean a bar. Otherwise, how are you going to get the bar off the floor and put it up on the rack? But, I don't feel like not everybody needs to know how to snatch a bar above their head, maybe a dumbbell. But so I just couldn't believe that people were like teaching that when half the people there couldn't even do it. You know what I mean? It was so crazy. So
I have so many opinions on this, and it's actually going to be its own podcast episode because as somebody who is about how easy it is to get certificates and somebody can train somebody.
I mean,
it's like a whole thing. As somebody who comes from education, I'm just like, oh, what? Like it's.
By the way,
I have a lot of thoughts.
There are people. I mean, in the United States, anybody can be a trainer. Like you don't have to have. You don't even have to have a certification. You don't even have to have insurance. And here's the thing that I want to remind people, right? Is that you're putting your life in the hands of somebody else to tell you what to do, right? And I'm not saying that everybody is, there's great people that are out there, but this is your body. This is not like, we're not talking about like you're hiring somebody to put wallpaper up. Like this is your body. And you really need to make sure that these people understand how to help you the right way and don't injure you,
Totally.
And look, I mean, every trainer has to start somewhere. I was a new trainer. I love new trainers and I coach a lot of new trainers. And I think anyone who wants to help somebody is great. I just think we need to be okay teaching where we are. If you're new, teach what you know. You know what I mean? And teach who you're comfortable with. And I think for anyone who's listening, who's like, I want to take a class, but now I'm scared. Now you just scared me. I'm never going to take a class. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to say that not necessarily. You also have the ability to say in class, I'm actually not doing that. Yep. Like if you were in class and they were snatching that day and you were just like, fuck no, tell them I'm not doing this. So is there another option to do something? What would you be open 100%. To that?
100%.
If I said to 100%. You, if I was like, Tiffany, I'm not snatching above my head with the barbell today. I don't want to do that. Is there another option? Would you let me have another option?
Totally. 100%. I have to do that with my students too. And honestly, I will say working with kids has made me a better coach.
Why is that?
Let me tell you, my classes have been from anywhere from 25 kids to 58 kids at a time.
Wow.
And let me tell you, the accommodations that I have to be able to whip out are insane. I have scoliosis. I hurt my ankle playing soccer. I can't squat this way. Like there was just so many things. I'm on my period, like whatever it is. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we go. It's like rapid. like rapid fire. Like, I got you, I got you, I got you. And it's like, this is where we are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to see
Is it
how
just
that,
you alone with all those kids?
yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah,
a lot.
it's just me.
We,
I
I
know.
used to volunteer. Shaka Khan used to have a Shaka Khan Foundation, and I used to volunteer. And there was about 50 something inner city kids that I used to do with my friend Paul. And we had all these kids that we were teaching and doing all this with. And it is a lot, especially with like teenagers, you know, I mean,
Yep.
I also, by the way, my favorite demographic to work with are teenagers.
I love them. They're so fun. Like it's so fun.
It's my favorite demographic because I just feel like, I don't know, it's just what I connect to. And I love teaching self-defense too. I feel like they should be teaching self-defense in high school. I mean, come on, especially like the easy basic stuff, you know?
Yeah, we were kind of partnering with a couple people to try to make that happen, as like, we're trying to have like weightlifting part of the program requirement as well as a self-defense. So we're hoping to launch that
that'd be
year,
great.
Which I'm really excited about because it's just so important. And especially like, and I hate to say it, but it's like, unfortunately, because of the world we live in, women have to be, you know, very aware of that stuff. So, so it's definitely an important one that we tackle.
Oh, that's
so
great.
just to switch gears a little bit, I think it was, you posted it on Instagram and I was like, oh my gosh, Ashley, I love her transparency. Like, you did this post about things that you've done to like kind of help you feel young. And then you said, and some like cute little like tweaks that I've done. And I was just like, you know what? Like, you got a lot of comments and people were so like, oh my gosh, thank you for being transparent. Like, and I love when there is transparency. I feel like people say that they're authentic on social media and online, and they are to an extent.
Do you know what though, Tiffany? If you have to tell, okay, there's two things. If you have to tell me that you're spiritual, or you have to tell me that you're authentic, you're not. You don't need to tell me.
It's like, you just be
you
the
are.
thing,
You just
right?
are. You just are. Or you're not. Yeah, exactly.
You just exist, and people notice this about you,
totally,
right?
True.
But I do feel especially like in the fitness industry, you know, there is that, I don't always agree with this, but like you've heard like, oh, like your body's your business card, you know what I mean? And I, as an educator, I'm like, you know, it's like, there's a lot of components to it, but I do understand a lot of pressures put on women and women in the fitness industry because you are always in front of people or in front of the camera or on video or in a magazine, like whatever it is, right? But I love when people are transparent because, you know, especially if you're selling a body program and like, you know, it always reminds me of, and I've said this before, but I don't know if you've seen the movie Legally Blonde. But that part where a long time ago, there was a part where Reese Witherspoon's character is visiting her client in jail and she's a fitness trainer and she's just like, my alibi is I was getting liposuction, but I can't tell anybody I was doing that because I'm going to be a fraud. And like, so it was like this whole thing. And I was like, but this is your industry, you know, and I just think it's so fascinating. So if you could like elaborate on like why you are a little more open on this stuff and like people like it, people like the transparency.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I can't lie, right? I can't keep anything a secret. But when I had my boobs done first, I was like, I'm not telling anybody. I'm like, I am not telling a soul. Literally came to work that day. I was like, you guys, I got my boobs done. I told everybody. I couldn't even keep it, you know, and then so that was like when I was in my 40s and I was like obsessed for a long time. I was like, you know, I had like saggy socks, you know, for boobs. And I was like, I want to get my boobs done. I was obsessed looking forever. Am I glad I did it? Yeah, I knew I wanted to do it. I have no feeling in my right boob. That's a whole nother thing. That's what happens with sometimes when you get them done. But I'll probably get them out at some point in time. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But so then I had my eyes done. And I had my eyes done by this doctor named Dr. Groth, who is the best eye doctor in all of Southern California, probably all of America. He's amazing. He's also an ophthalmologist. because I had really bad bags under my eyes. So I used to have like, it used to look like Richard Nixon under my eyes. I mean, it was like really bad. And it's hereditary. My mother has it, my grandfather. So I went to him, he did my eyes and I was like, I'm not telling anybody. Three weeks go by, I come to work, I'm like, I have my eyes done. I told everybody. I cannot. I was like, I could not, because I was like, it was the best thing I ever did. Also, they were healing like weird. So like one was like half closed. First of all, I also don't care. Like, but see, now here's the difference. My eyes and my boobs will never change no matter what I lift, no matter what I do, no matter what I eat, no matter what cream I put on. Does not matter. It will not change. Do I feel that somebody is a fraud if they are getting lipo and they are selling weight loss stuff and they're not disclosing that? 1,000%. You are a liar and you're a fraud, because you should be telling your people, look, I got fit. I did do lipo during this time when I did it. Like, just be honest, right? Because it's fraudulent to not disclose that. I'm a 12-step person. Like, my logo is 12 bumps behind here. That's the 12 steps.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. And that's also, the circle is focus. It all has to do with my recovery from back when I was 18, when I went into treatment for eating disorders. So rigorous honesty is part of the program. It's part of 12-step program. It's part of my life. My terror is that if I'm not, I'll lose everything. You know, I mean, this is just a deep thing that I have with program and with this the way I've always lived my life. So, you know, I have to be rigorously honest about shit because I can't help it. And also, like, who cares? Like, who am I trying to, what am I trying to kid you that someone's going to look at a picture and be like, I'm sorry, you used to look like you hadn't slept in a month. And now how do your eyes look like this? And I'm going to lie? Like, I can't. And people want to know, like, I realize at a certain point, you know, I'm like, well, I do actually look really good for my age. I didn't realize it, right? Because I was like, so just focused on what I was doing. But I realized, I was like, oh, okay, I think what's helped me look better for my age are the following, right? I don't drink alcohol. I do love THC. I've been a THC fan for years. Okay. I do love THC, do love CBD, do not drink alcohol. Never liked it. I think alcohol ages people. It just does. It's a poison. It's fucking terrible. Right. I'm not a big sun person. I've not been in the sun. Unfortunately, I wish I could be, but I just burn. Right. I used to be a sun worshiper. Not really. Since my 30s also. I've lifted consistently, always, and rebounding on a rebounder, I think, is also lymphatic health, and it's so good for your body, and it doesn't, you know, pull your skin when you rebound, like when you run outside. That causes wrinkles. It causes your face to fall more, your body to fall more. You know, and also with the face stuff, like, I'm honest about it. I'm like, I had filler once or twice. I haven't in years because it felt weird in my face, and I get Botox once in a while, but, you know, I mean, I'll tell everybody what I do. I like to learn from other people what they're doing and tweak. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I am the same way. Like, not just even about like little tweakments that people do. Like, I just love transparency. Like, I love learning from other people. Like, tell me what you're doing. Tell me what worked. Tell me what weird thing is happening with your body. Maybe it's happening to me and I feel less alone. You know what I mean?
Or like, what doesn't work, or like what didn't work, or like, and I just like that. I'm more attracted to people who just are authentic because
me too.
Because why?
I like it.
Why not? And
I
don't know. Somebody once, I put up a picture. I can't remember what it was. It was like an older picture. I was talking about something, and they were like, felt like they had got me. They were like, looks like somebody's boobs got bigger when they got, or whatever, something like that. And I responded to them and I said, it's interesting. You're saying it like, you caught me.
Yeah.
Why?
You're like, I already spilled that tea.
But also why? Why do you feel the need to feel like you caught me doing something? Like, I'll tell you, can ask me, you know what I mean? And it's with anything. I mean, like, I'll talk about any of it because when you know what they say, you're as sick as your secrets. This is a big part of program, right? You are as sick as your secrets. So for me to keep secrets means that there's something wrong. Like, if I'm like, oh, I can't tell Tiffany that.
Exactly.
I can't tell Tiffany that.
And that's 100%. And like, it's funny because I do, you know, obviously take care of myself and like,
Mm-hmm.
but I do, get people that are sometimes like, oh, you look so youthful. Like you just turned 40. And it's like, I will be honest about what I do. It's
What do you
like,
do?
well, I get Botox and
Mm-hmm.
I'm very transparent. It's like, I'll post in my stories, like going to get Botox
Uh-huh.
today,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much the main of it. But I'll even like little things. I'm like, hey, getting my eyebrows laminated again, getting my lash lift so I don't have to bother with mascara and I can
See,
just wake up,
yes. Oh, I
like,
had, you know
so
what
I just love
I had, what's it called? When they
oh,
like
microblading.
microblading on my eyebrows, the best thing I've ever done. And
People
then
love
I
it.
had the lamination afterwards, and that was great too. That was great too. That
Yeah,
makes a
but
big,
I love being transparent about little things like that. But then also like I, have a little skincare routine that's nothing crazy or expensive that I do in the
me too.
morning.
Yeah.
I only wear makeup maybe on the weekends or if I have
Mm-hmm.
to. Like I don't wear it to work.
Mm-hmm.
I try
Mm-hmm.
to
Me
keep
too.
a hat on if I'm in the sun, like
Mm-hmm.
little things like that. But also like I tell people like my mom looks young. Like I have her genes, like
Are you Italian?
and I'm Nicaraguan and Mexican.
Oh, okay. So you have like that beautiful
Yeah, so
skin,
it's like
that
I have an olive skin
olive
tone and
skin.
like you tried fillers a couple times and I was like, meh, like I don't know if it was for me. Like it's just also very expensive. And that's another thing I like to tell people, like, this isn't cheap, and it's like I'm still a teacher. I can't keep up with fillers, so we're not even gonna go there. And
Right. And here's the thing. Oh, also, I will tell you another thing that really helps aging is having your finances in order. Now, I know
yes.
that you just mentioned that, and I know this is a side note from fitness, but I will tell you, people's weight gain, people's life spinning out of control, right? When you don't, and I was not always somebody who had my finances in order. I've gotten
Me neither.
everything in order and organized over the last 4 years where I am like so on it. It's amazing. And that also helps me to feel really calm, doesn't it?
100% brings so much peace. And
So
like,
much.
I mean, my 20s were a hot mess
Me
financially.
too.
Like first, like hot mess. And then finally into my early 30s, we're like, we're cleaning this up.
Oh,
And
that's
like
good.
finally getting to a place where it's like debt free and
Yep.
like I pay everything with cash. And I'm just like, it feels so freeing.
Oh, but you know what I do? So here's what I do. Side note. So I do same thing, debt free. So I have 2 cards. So also, oh, by the way, have you read the book? Is it right here? Where is it? I Can Make You Rich. Wait, Ramit. It is my favorite book that I'm reading. Oh, it's in the bathroom right now. But I read his book and it helped me so much. But you're right? Having no debt and living where that's what I was gonna say. So what I like to do is I like to use my Amex or another card. I only pay for purchases with that. I pay it immediately, but I use all of my points to pay for my Amazon purchases. So I don't use
Nice.
any money for Amazon. I use only my points because I don't really travel that much. So I will
Yeah.
choose which card. I only have 2 cards because my American Express, I keep for big purchases because you get insurance on it. And also if I can get points for travel and then I use my other card for getting my points for paying for all my Amazon purchases and all of that. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
that.
Mm-hmm.
I need to, that would probably be like the next phase I need to
You just have
get
to
in
make sure
on
that
is like,
you,
cause my husband's like really good about like points and this and like, but for me, I'm just like, I got so used to and it's probably like comes with like that money trauma of like being like scarcity mindset. And now I'm like, just pay everything with cash. I don't want to have to worry about missing a payment, da, 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 da. But it's like,
okay, yeah. So when
you're right. Like
you can get more automated.
having
You can get automated with it. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes. Yes. And having your, like you said, financial health is one of the 8 dimensions of wellness. And if
Yep.
that is in disarray, it is going to affect all
And
the
people
other
don't talk
dimensions. All
about it.
seven.
Do you know what I mean? They don't
Mhm.
talk about it. And
Yeah.
I think Ramit's book is I will make you. I'll teach you to be rich. Or I will teach you. I think that, and he has a
Mhm.
Netflix show right now too. But really,
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
really,
Yes.
really,
Yes.
he's also great on Instagram to follow. And it's on Instagram. It's Ramit, Ramit. But really basic, easy stuff to incorporate. And now I'm like obsessed with my saving and moving all my stuff to a high yield
Love
savings
it.
account and taking out of this other savings account that wasn't making me any money, and then understanding about my SEP and my, your IRA and your your Roth, your retirement stuff of what you're doing and how to set up. Because I just was in such panic for so long of just working that I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to do that. I'm at the gym. I don't have time. I'm at the gym. I don't have time. I'm at the gym. So it was until I really changed my business and I was like, okay, I can work on my life stuff. That really made a huge, I mean, like you just said, when your finances are in order, I would say like 90% less stress in your life. And
yeah, like I can go to the store and like not stress out about like purchasing something that I need. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like I'm good. Whereas like that scarcity of like, can I do this? Or like, if I'm like, ooh, I want to try this class and drop in and it's like $35, it's like, I'm good. Like it just feels good to be in a place where you can do that. And this could be at any like income level too. Like it doesn't have to be like waiting until you have all this money. It's like, no, like you need to start where you are, like meet yourself where you're at.
And you
like,
need to start now. You need to open up a retirement account, a SEP or a Roth now, where you can just do a minimal amount that will set you up for your life when you're older. I wish I had somebody telling me to, I mean, I had no financial guidance by my parents. None, zero. Other than
it's hard.
Other than you should pay your taxes or you'll go to jail. I'm like, I'm 13. Like I was like, oh can you teach me anything about like saving or putting it in a thing? Like I just didn't know. And I also moved to LA when I was 19. I mean, I was really young. I was like, goodbye.
Oh, so young.
Yeah. So I really learned from University of Life. You know what I mean? Through all that stuff.
Though.
So it's never too late. Everybody can start whenever. It's not too late to start anything, and I think that really is something that people need to look at when they're looking at their overall health is like, look at your finances too. And that is going to be adding an enormous amount of stress to just take the time to go over it. Did you use, I just, a side note tip to people, I used, what helped me really get out of my debt was Credit Karma.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Because I was able to see all my stuff on the screen and it's free and it really helped me to pay it all down and get it done. And that really changed it. That was like my goal during COVID. I was just going to pound this all out and just pay all this because I streamlined all my finances and it's really so helpful.
No, that's great. That's great. So I have one final question for you before we have to go. And it is a question I ask everyone. What advice would you give to your teenage self and teens today?
The advice I would give myself and teens today is, number one, like we talked about, don't wait until you're older to start taking care of your finances. That's number one, right? You can start now with a savings and auto, even though you're like, I don't have any discipline, just force yourself to set up something and do an auto, make it auto pay. You will thank me when you're 30. You'll freak out that you'll have all this money that you didn't realize you even had by setting up your SEP or your Roth. I would also say that, that's one thing I wish that I had. I wish that when I was a teenager, I had a teacher like you, Tiffany. I wish I had I do wish I had a coach that was a female that showed me strength stuff. I had a boyfriend whose mom, Marilyn Labcon was her name. She was a black belt in karate and she used to lift in her basement. And I used to think she was the coolest, strongest woman ever. She had like major, I just thought she was so cool. She was my idol. And I just used to wish that she was my mom. I thought she was so cool. And that's what I would say. You should definitely focus on your strength as a teenager. You know what I mean? And that it's not too early to, to work on your, and when I say self-defense, I don't mean it like because everybody's out to get you, but I feel like when you have your finances in order, you feel strong and you know how to defend yourself, you are so ready to go out into the world. Do you know what I mean?
Take on the world.
Seriously, if you feel autonomous in yourself, that you can protect yourself, you understand your financial stuff, even if you're 17 and you starting this now, you are so ahead of the game. I wish.
You are so ahead of the game.
Oh my gosh, if you're in high school anyone in high school right now listening to this, I am so envious of your situation because you can start setting up your life right now. And you don't even have to understand
Yes.
all of it, right? You can just start setting up automated stuff for you to take care of yourself on a small level, even if it's $15 a week you put into a savings account. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Opening up a high yield savings account.
Yeah.
So I would say those things to me were really important. And also, bad relationship. I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. I was in the worst of relationships until I was in my 40s, like the worst, abusive, domestic violence is a whole nother thing. With my ex-husband, domestic violence and all this stuff. So part of, I think, what I would also tell teenagers and myself then is that, you do need to feel confident in yourself and that you do have boundaries and you don't let people overstep them, and there's nothing wrong with you being a strong female. There's nothing wrong with it. And that if somebody doesn't like it, that's their problem. That's probably not somebody you need to be around or friends with. If somebody feels that your strength, anything positive is an assault to them, that's their issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't have to point it out to them, but I would just say pivot.
Yep. 100%.
What about you though?
These are things that I would have loved. I think, it's so funny because every time I ask people this question, every nugget of wisdom, I'm like, yes, I would have loved this too. And I've had so many that I have thought of, and I did a post on this. And one of the things that I think I would probably share, one of the many, would be you don't have to have it all figured out.
Oh.
And I think we are I work at a school and I kind of see it, like the pressure already starting, like which college are you going to go to? What is your major? And it's like, they're 17.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so hard, and it's great that some kids know, but it's like, Tiffany then didn't know that she was going to end up being a physical education teacher. Like, I ended up being a teacher, but even when I started college, I wasn't set up to be a teacher. I was actually going pre-med first.
Oh, okay.
And then I switched to education, and I'm happy about it. But it's like, even then it's like, wow, I didn't know that I probably would have wanted a different major than what I got. And like, there's just so many things. So you think like, I need to be married by this age and in this school and this grad school. Like, you just start planning it all out. And sometimes you leave no wiggle room for experimenting,
Right, so right. That's such a good point.
To me, that would be one thing that I would also impart, that there's a lot of pressure because you have adults telling you, what's next? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And just having it all planned out. And sometimes we just need to, figure it out along the way.
It's interesting. When I graduated high school, I was like, bye assholes. I am moving to LA. I was like, get me the hell out of here. Right. And I graduated, and then, I went to treatment because I just I was a mess. But then after all that, I ended up moving to LA. But again, I didn't do one thing that was what everybody else was doing. Like, I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to live on my own. Like, I didn't even think also, by the way, during that time that this was unusual or that other people weren't doing it, or maybe I was a little young, and I moved to LA of all places. And like, I just never even thought about it. You know what I mean? Because is what I wanted to do. And I didn't care. I've never cared what other people were doing.
I love that.
I have never cared what other people are doing. And you know what? I guess my last piece of advice would be, if looking at what other people are doing is shutting you down from following your dreams, then don't look at it. Then unfollow it. Yeah. Unfollow it. Yeah. Don't look at it. Don't read the magazine. Don't do whatever makes you feel motivated, and surround yourself with people that support your dreams. Unless your dreams are absolutely like, let's say like things are going great. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sell every single thing I have and go live in an RV in the middle of the desert. Maybe you might want somebody to maybe be like, all right, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk this through a little bit before, but again, like, I don't know. I just feel like this is the time, like, you know what I mean? Do what having experience is what makes you into a more well-rounded person. And
totally.
You need to have experiences, right? I mean, you need to have experiences. But I would just surround yourself with people that support you, and be selective about who you share your dreams with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
there are people who are not going to share in your dreams because they have their own shit. Like, you share your dreams with somebody who's not following their dreams, they subconsciously might sabotage yours because they never had the confidence to do theirs.
Yeah, they can't envision it.
They can't. Yeah, they can, or they feel resentful that they haven't done theirs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just,
I mean, I see it all the time.
exactly. So just surround
Yeah.
yourself, with the people that you feel attracted to and that speak your language and that support you. And, and I think that would be, I'd say it's a core advice, is that, make sure,
Yeah.
even if it's your parents, like if your parents don't support your dreams, okay. But, and they're still like good parents and they do that, that's okay. You could still have your dreams, work with a different mentor, maybe, right? You can still respect your parents and do that, but you can still work, because sometimes even if your parents are like, look at, we come from this is not viable. We want you to have an actual, you're doing this job and there's no stability in it. But by the way, there's not a lot of stability in a lot of things, right? We have to create our stability. So that's what I would say. You're never too late to create your own life of what you want, or too early.
I love this.
Yeah.
These are gems. With so many gems were dropped. Everyone take notes.
Yes.
Everyone take notes, and yes, share them. So, Ashley, how can we support you? Where can we direct people? How can we support you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Ashley Borden Fitness. My website is Ashley Borden, and I have all of my programs. So I have like 11 programs that range from programs that I use on Revenge Body when, I use with actual people, to people who are brand new at training, who've never done anything in their life in the gym and they want to start. It's called On Ramp. I teach class live Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's also, you can also check on my Instagram, and my link, it has everything there. There's a free 2 weeks if you want to try class with me. I also coach and business coach other trainers. And anyone who runs their own business who is in, fitness or health. So you can find me ashleyborden.com, Ashley Borden Fitness, and on Instagram and Twitter is Ashley Borden, blah, blah, blah. Just if you put Ashley Borden in, you'll see me, you'll find me.
All the things will come up. Perfect.
All the things. But thank you so much for having me on today, Tiffany. It was so great talking to you.
So good talking with you, and I will share all your links, socials, and everything in the show notes of this episode as well. And thank you, Ashley, for spending this time to chat with us and share your knowledge and wisdom. It was so good to see you. It's funny because I know we see each other online and like we'll comment here and there, but like even if it's like through the computer right now, I'm so excited to see you and talk to you.
It was so great. I was so glad when you reached out. And again, Tiffany, I love what you're doing.
Thank you. What you're doing. That means so much.
I wish there were more women out there doing what you're doing. You could so tell how much you care about these kids and what you're doing with them. It's really wonderful to watch.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will talk to you next episode. Bye.
Bye.